In a previous video, we saw how we could look at an individual student's score report for one particular test. In this video, I want to show the roster performance report. This is a report that will help us visualize how well our current roster of students did on a test, on a per category basis, and against other rosters who also took the same test. In this case, I'm taking a look at my premium spellcasting roster. In this roster, I have 8 individual students, and if I wanted to view the score report for a particular student, I could click on the Results button next to that student's name. But in this case, I want to show the roster performance report. So I'm going to click on the Roster Performance Report button located at the top of the roster. Now, because this report helps us visualize the data on a per-test basis, we'll have to select the test. In this case, I've only assigned one test to my current roster, so I'll select this Toon Boom Harmony Associate exam. And now we can take a look at a number of metrics related to this particular test. One of the first metrics we'll see is this roster performance metric that shows us how well our students on this roster are performing on this particular exam. In this case, we can see we have a 33% pass rate. Now that might not seem great at first, but if we look at this other performance metric, this shows us how well other rosters are performing on the same test. In this case, other rosters are performing at a 26% pass rate, so comparatively, our current roster is actually doing pretty well. The next thing we'll take a look at is the category performance breakdown, which gives us both a high-level overview and a bit of detail about how our students are performing on all categories represented in this exam. Now we can see from this that we have a few categories with a 100% pass rate, like interface navigation and painting. And these are categories our students performed really well in. We can also see in which categories our students didn't perform so well. In the case of this camera move category, we have a 0% pass rate, so we know that we might need to focus on this category a little more. And our playback category has 17%, our node system category has 17%, so this gives us some information on what we might want to focus on in future lessons. As we move down the page, we'll be able to see individual student performance breakdowns that shows us how well our individual students have performed on each category represented in the exam. We can see that our first student did really well in categories like software manipulation and traditional animation, where they got 100% of the questions correct. We can also see, however, that in, for instance, animation industry concepts, our student didn't do so well. They only got 40% of the questions correct, and might need some additional instruction in this category. As we continue to scroll down the page, we'll be able to see how well our other students performed. In the case of this student, we can see they didn't pass the exam, and they also struggled with that animation industry concepts category. This report has really helped me understand where my students have excelled and where my students need some extra help. So I can take this info back to the classroom, and I'm anxious to see how well my students will perform on the next exam.